la música.
With our event today. I'm Heather. I'm a librarian here at the Berkeley Public Library, and my colleague is Dan. And today we're so excited to be featuring Dominica Rice Cisneros of Cosecha and Bombera of Oakland, California. She is going to be demonstrating how to make amazing beans and rice today. Let me get back to my intro. So the Farm to Shelf is a series of library programs that spotlight local culinary professionals, businesses, cookbook authors, and chefs who feature cooking demos for our audience. So at today's event, we're going to show you a demo of Dominica making beans. This video is about 10 minutes long, and then afterwards we'll field questions for about 10 to 15 minutes. And then we'll show you a second video of Dominica making, the first video is going to be her making rice, and the second one is going to be her making beans. And after that demo, we'll field another round of questions. So before we get started, we do want to thank the foundation of the Berkeley Public Library for funding the event's Charlie Cart. We also want to thank Dominica, Panfila, and Tanya for being so incredibly generous with their time, skills, and expertise with us. Also, subscribe to the library's social media feeds on Instagram and Facebook, where you'll get announcements to great events like this and receive updates about the library.
So we just want to do a little bit of tech housekeeping today. Please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen to submit questions to Dominica at any time. We'll get to as many as we can during the event. And just so you know, this event is being recorded and may be made available via one of the library's social media channels. Please be aware that we are recording, and feel free to exit the event at any time if that makes you uncomfortable. Our next Farm to Shelf program will be featuring an adult literacy team educator, also known as Berkeley Reads, and a member of a local food pantry. The specific day and time will be announced soon in our newsletter and on the library's events calendar. Beginning Monday, this coming Monday, March 15th, the Berkeley Tool Lending Library will start lending kitchen tools, including Instant Pots, sous vide cookers, air fryers, and more. On Monday, you'll be able to go to berkeleypubliclibrary.org to reserve one. And later this month, we'll be featuring Dominica and Panfila and her on our social media, demonstrating one of the tortilla presses that you're going to be able to check out for the Tool Lending Library. All right, are we ready to go ahead and watch the rice video? Okay. You're muted, Heather. We couldn't hear you.
Everybody, all the panelists, we're going to turn our video and our sound off while we play the video. Okay.
All right. Just a second, folks.
Dan, do you need some help?
Yeah, I can't find the video. It's not
Okay.
It's showing up under the things that I can share.
Why don't you turn, I will give it a try.
All right. So just a minute, folks. We're having some technical difficulties here, but we'll get the video up and running in just a second. No, we can't see it yet, Heather.
Say hola.
Hi, Dominica. Who's there with you today?
I love you guys. If you guys want to throw me some questions now while we wait for the video, what's up? We got beans, we got rice. We got achote.
So Dominica, Deborah wants to know, Mexican recipes usually call for white onions, and she's curious if you think they're really different in flavor than yellow onions.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I like that. I think it's a personal preference with families. I have some friends that only buy white onion, but when you think about it, it also, we have to deal with like, if you were raised in California in the 70s, she had her daughter here in the 70s, so you have to be like, okay, well, what's at the market? So sometimes what's accessible and what is around and what it grows in California for us determines what kind of cebolla we're using. And nowadays, it's different. We have so many options, so many vendors, so many supermercados. We love the Latino mercados, yay! So now I can go to the farmer's market and what we like to do is now we're all about is the spring onion. Someone, can you grab me that top box? So since it's springtime, my game changes. My mom always uses yellow onion. Hand me a stack. Open that up. But I love to use all spring onions throughout the season until early summer. So this is what they're looking like at the farmer's market right now. They're gonna get really big, and then they're gonna lose their tops, and then they're gonna be dried. So right now for my rice, I like to use as much spring onion as possible, but it's just preference. This is really sweet. This is really good. So going with what's at the market, what's available, and that's how families kind of at some point you get into that regional tradition,
Yeah.
There's my long answer.
All right, we got another question. Annette wants to know, do you pre-soak your beans and for how long?
That's a great question. So you don't have to. The important things that there are ways around it. The most important part is buy good frijoles. I'm like, you have to buy good beans. Okay, so soaking, non-soaking, it doesn't really matter. So we like to buy, we have some really great beans from the farmer's market. They're dried and they're about, maybe a few dollars a pound. So this is their cranberry beans. You can still get this at the farmer's market. It's still available. They're going to start harvesting the fresh crops that are in the pod in about early summer. But if you don't go to the farmer's market often, you don't see the dry beans, I recommend purchasing all of your beans at the Mexican grocery stores. So if you buy from the mercados, so if you have a Central American market or community, like in the Mission Street at Casa Lucas, you have a lot of Central Americans, so you have a lot of plantains, you have a lot of black beans. Buy the black beans in bulk, and they will cook up in an hour and a half, super fast, without soaking. So the thing is, if you buy some beans from like Whole Foods, you're gonna have to soak that for 2 days because that's never gonna cook. So you have to buy fresh crop, and you buy from people who are using the beans in their diet every week. So You want to make sure you go straight to the Mexican grocery store, buy some pintos, try to buy it from the bulk section. Make sure they're clean, and you can bypass that soaking. And you'll start getting, especially with the fresh beans, those cook up really fast. But if you have the time, soak it, but don't feel bad. Some people, one of my old bosses would do a quick soak. So he would do, fill up the pot of beans that you're gonna make it. Normally have it like an inch over the bean line. So that means that this is your pot, this is the bean line. You go over that, maybe 2 inches. And he would just, with a little salt, he would boil it for like 1 minute and then strain it and then start again. And that was their quick soak. So you can do that instead.
So I have some IT backup ready to help us play, yay, our rice video. So Vlad is gonna kindly help us, okay? Thank you so much for your patience.
Thank you, Vlad. Saving us once again. And we'll be answering more of your questions after the video.
Right. Is that streaming? Are you guys seeing that?
Yes.
Hola, soy Dominica. I'm from Cosecha Cafe, the chef and owner, and the lovely Panfila, our sous chef. Yay! She's the queen of everything. Tortilla. She does all of our tortillas and the yummy quesadillas at Cosecha. And of course, our new restaurant is going to be Bombera. So she's definitely going to be in charge of teaching a new generation of tortilla masters at Bombera, of course, in Oakland. And we're really excited about that project. The big question that Panfila gets and that I get a lot is about rice and beans. So right now, let's talk about rice really quickly. Today, we're gonna be working with a basmati rice. We're gonna be making a white rice that we make every day at Cosecha. And the reason why we make our white rice is because my daughter loves white rice. And so, of course, like the mom, you make what your children are gonna eat. So you're like, okay, white rice it is. But again, this technique is, you can use it for the Spanish rice that has a little jitomate, a little tomato, and you'll be perfect. It's the same recipe. You can add things to it. Today we're gonna add a little bit of carrots, but you can also add a little bit of frozen corn or canned corn or fresh corn or zucchini towards the end. But the carrots need a little bit of time, so they'll go in at the same time as the cebolla and everything to get it sauteed up. Okay, some of the basics that we have to do is wash the rice if you're working with something that's a basmati rice. Again, the Mexican mercados, the Mexican grocery stores all over California have a great Texas long grain rice, and you can buy them by the pound. And Texas long grain is kind of what we really love at Cosecha. But because of the pandemic, getting exact ingredients is not always easy for us right now, but the basmati is a definite king of rice for us. And so it's either basmati, brown or white, and then the Texas long grain. But again, look at what you have in your cupboard. And then if you're using a brown rice, you're gonna have to up the ante with the water. That's something to think about. So if you're using a Texas long grain, you're not gonna have to wash it, but with a basmati, definitely wash it. I let it drain out for about 5 minutes, let it dry out a little bit. And here we go. We have a warm saute pan, and we're gonna add our onions and garlic, and we're gonna start toasting the rice into the onion and garlic. Okay, ayúdame con la cebolla, ajo, and then I'm gonna show you the aromatics that we use. And you can use whatever you like, but I'm just gonna show you what we love at Cosecha. Yeah, we're gonna go for it, Papila. We're gonna add some rice. Now, when you're doing measuring, for myself, so I'll measure out, by the cup, or if you have a lucky coffee cup you always use, it doesn't have to have a perfect measuring cup. So I use a bowl at home, and at the restaurant we use everything's by the quart. It's like big batches. But at home, I usually measure out the rice in the little trusty bowl. I know that this is good enough for the 3 of us at home. It could be good for like 5 people actually, but I love arroz. I really love rice. I mean, this is like for real. My name is Dominica Rice. I love all rice. Every day is rice. Sweet. It could be rice from Japan, Italy. People always say they love rice. No, they don't. They only want the rice that their mom makes. That's fine, but you don't really love rice. You have to, I love rice, all rice. So right now, like this is what I would do at home. I would just measure it, then wash it if it's basmati, and then let it drain, and then put it into the sauteing onions and garlic, lots of olive oil, don't be afraid. And then I'm gonna let that toast up, okay? Now with the same bowl, that's where I'm gonna measure my water. So I'm gonna, while she stirs, I'm gonna add like 2 containers of water for this, okay? So it's 2 to 1, and you're home free. So something to think about with this, what we do at Cosecha, my cousin Renee always adds the chile de árbol, and everybody at Cosecha loves it, so we keep adding that. And it's nice to add it into the oil so you get that flavor from the chile de árbol. We don't break it, so the seeds stay inside, so it's not gonna give off a ton of heat. It has a nice aromatic flavor, a little bit of heat, and a little bit of bay. These bay leaves come from my neighbor's house. They have a California bay leaf tree, and I always have bay leaves. It's great. That's it. So you have chopped up garlic, rice, a really good California olive oil, really clean rice. We're toasting it up now. The chile de árbol and the bay leaf. Now that's the basics, and we're gonna now talk about the salt and the water. If you wanna add anything else to this, at this point, we're getting close to adding, we can add the cenorias or cuando ya está agua?
Cuando ya está el agua.
Okay, so we can add, later, in a minute, we can add some tomato paste to this or tomato sauce or chopped up fresh tomatoes or a little bit of tomato puree, and that will kind of lead into that whole Spanish rice that we love. But you don't need all of that. We just go salt and water. And the whole toastiness of the rice with the, it could be with butter or olive oil or any kind of oil you have at home. Just a little bit of just having a chance to get that aromatic, the smells so good in here. And that's what's gonna give you the flavor. You don't have to buy an expensive bouillon or expensive herbs. It can be anything or just very simple. If you don't have onion, don't use onion. Sometimes I just use garlic. If all you have is garlic salt, then just put a little bit of garlic salt. Don't stress out. Okay, please enjoy your cooking time. So we're gonna add some water now. Remember, it's gonna be 2 to 1. And we're gonna talk about seasoning the rice before we put the lid on top. Now this is something that's very important because the hot, you have cold water you're adding to this, but the water is very, it's plain, it's very hungry. So that water is gonna just, look for any nook and cranny that have salt or flavor and take away from the rice. So you wanna have the water actually give a little bit of flavor. So we're gonna make sure we have either some black pepper and enough salt to this to have a nice aromatic flavor. Yeah, and we're ready for the agua. Okay. Okay, so it's 2 to 1. Here we go. Now this is looking really beautiful. Okay, here we go. We're adding the salt to this, and it's coming back up to a simmer. And that's a good time to start testing the, just like about I think about a teaspoon right there. So let's taste this, okay? Dame una cuchara, por favor. Gracias. So you can add a little bit of black pepper. I have a little bit of chili pepper in there, so I'm not gonna do any black pepper on this one. So I'm gonna taste this this is the part. that I'm gonna add a little bit more salt. Now seasoning and tasting the water before you cover it, will ensure this is the water, you want it to taste a little saltier than you're used to. Okay, because that rice is also very hungry for salt, and it's going to be hunting around for flavor, aromatics, and sal. So the olive oil, the butter is going to give a lot of flavor to the rice. The herbs, the bay, the chile de árbol, the garlic. But you just want to taste it before you put the cover. Para usted, una cuchara para usted. Una cuchara para usted. Para check. I think un poquito más.
Un poquito más de sal.
I'm gonna add a little bit more because we're gonna add something to this. Because that water is gonna tell you what the rice is gonna taste like. If you want it a little saltier, so that the end product is kind of where you want it. Okay? We're gonna add a little bit of some River Dog Farm carrots, which are my favorite. And we're so lucky that they come out every Tuesday. And here we go. We're gonna add that. We're gonna cover it with the lid, and that's it. You're not gonna stir it around. You can lower the heat. Lower the heat. Okay. Let me see. I'm gonna give it one more taste because those carrots are so sweet from the farmer's market. And I want this to be a savory dish.
Creo que le faltaba, ¿no?
Ándale. So some families would put a little piece of cilantro or a little bit of extra bay leaf in the middle, then they cover the pot. Whatever you have. I like a little extra chili, so I'll add a little chili in there. And then that's it. You get a little close up on that. It's so pretty. ¿Ya está? ¿Estás bien? ¿Queremos?
Está bien.
Okay. Y ya, I'm gonna lower the heat, and then that's it. It should be ready in about like 12 minutes. Set the timer.
15 minutos.
Yes. Okay, I'm gonna be eating. So it smells so good. It's like garlic and onions, and a nice bowl of arroz is in my future. So here we go. So medium low heat, like 15 minutes max, and then you can let it sit off to the side, off of the burner for another like 5 minutes, and then you're good to go. So remember, 2 to 1. So 1 cup of rice, 2 cups of water, saute that up, and you're ready. And then here we go. Let's look. How's it look over there, Tanya? Mira, que rico. This is so nice. And then adding the carrots again, that's just, for your own taste and your family's taste. But for us, it's always a nice way to kind of like get some more vitamins into our, diet. And it could be any vegetable. And then here we go. A nice little fluffy rice. And this is my favorite. We have rice almost at every dinner. There's like a bowl of rice. And here we go. This is our little arroz from Cosecha. And then we can add a little avocado. Poquito avocado, never hurt nobody. And so this is really yummy. I love this. So I'm gonna add a little bit of rice for me. Thank you, Pamphila. And then if you have leftovers, I always like to stir fry that up with a little bit of scrambled eggs and soy sauce, and you have a quick little stir fry with whatever you have in the fridge. So think about what you have in the fridge, like celery and onions, and saute that up, and then add some of the day-old rice and a little scrambled eggs and soy sauce, and you're ready. So always think about, since it doesn't take a lot of money, it's just about taking a little bit of time for yourself and 15 minutes to make some arroz. Enjoy. Gracias. Ay, qué rico.
All right. Yeah. Welcome back. Dominica, your sound is off. There we go. You are too, Heather. You're muted.
Yay, how lovely. Gracias, you guys.
Yes, that was great. Are you ready for some questions, Dominica? All right.
Bring it on.
Let's see. Susan asks, is the rule of thumb to just double the water when cooking rice? So like 2 cups of rice, 2 cups of water, or you just do 1 cup of rice and 2 cups of water?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, it's nice to have that. I have like either a mug or a bowl, you know, and it's, you know, for us, like the mug is good for 2 people, the bowl is good for like 3 people, and so it doesn't have to be. But if you have the, you know, proper measuring cups, then it's you have 1 cup to 2 cups of water. I always measure for myself, but I've realized that we do big pots of rice. So if you're doing a really big pot of rice, which is around like 4 quarts of rice, I would lower the water because you're creating so much steam in that pot that it's going to become mushy. So, but if you're using a small pot and only using like a 1 cup or 2 cup amount, then just stick with that ratio of like, you know, 1 cup of rice, 2 cups of water, and you're great. You're ready to roll.
And you cooked it for 15 minutes, was that right?
Yeah, so I cooked that we sauteed it for about, we're not looking for color, we're just looking for aroma and getting it a little opaque. But it's not about browning the rice, it's just toasting it a little bit.
Yeah.
So that was about 2 minutes time of toasting, sauteing the rice with the oil and onions. And then it's another like 10 minutes of rapid kind of simmer covered. And then I usually turn it off and let it sit covered for 5 minutes. So it's like in total, you know, cooking time is only around maybe, you know, 15 minutes max. And it's good to let it sit covered for a little bit off the burner.
Aaron has a good question. We just had your achiote chicken. He says it's delicioso. When I make it at home, I make mock Seville orange juice. Do you know anywhere in Oakland to get Seville oranges, or do you have your own way to replicate it?
No sé. I don't know enough about that.
Okay.
For that chote chicken question, we'll have to do another video.
Sorry, Aaron, we don't have the answer to that one. Let's see. Deborah, she wants to know, do you think that the small purple tomatillos have a different flavor than the larger green ones?
You know, I don't, people will definitely say yes, but I don't really see it. I'm sure I think the most important thing is that if you can get it from the farmer's market, regardless of what color, it's going to be sweeter. Okay, it's getting it fresh. Like if you're finding it somewhere else, it might be a little bit more on the tart side. You want to find something super green, super maybe marbled purple with green is fine, but stay away from any tomatillos that are white. That's or like weird yellow. That'll ruin the whole sauce. Just throw that away. So that's and there's a lot of farmers all over the Berkeley market and Oakland market that have tomatillos now, which is nice.
And what do you think about Peruviano beans?
I love all frijoles. I love all the frijoles. Yeah.
Good answer.
And that's something that goes into our ancestral mode. You know what I mean? So frijoles is a real comfort food for us. And we also just enjoy it. It's a lot of protein, but it's very ancestral to us and anybody who's, you know, a part of that whole Mexican American Latino community. That's a base for us. So it goes deep, runs deep. All frijoles are from the Americas. Eso, yeah, she was raised, yo también. Yes, but I appreciate all beans, but beans travel, like they traveled the world with the gold and the silver that they brought over from Mexico. So that gold and silver and frijoles and chilies and corn and potatoes were all traveling together in the same pirate ships. And so they all come back a little changed, you know. So you have a cannellini beans or flageole beans from France, and you have cranberry beans from Italy, but they all originated here in the Americas and traveled the world and came back. But they're not altered that much. It's just each heirloom bean is grown and created to grow in a certain climate. So this is why we got into the potato famine, because they took the wrong potato to Europe, and they, that started the potato famine, and then they had to find the right potato. And this is why there's like 500 varieties of potato, is because all over the Americas you have all different altitudes, and and the same thing with the beans and corn. So the fact that the cranberry bean did really well in northern part of Italy is great, but it didn't originate there. They had some garbanzo beans, but they didn't have the frijoles. It's a different plant. It's a different thing. It's American. It's an American, Mexicano, Latino, ancestral thing. But I appreciate all frijoles. They come back.
And
With a
then
different name.
if you were going to make this recipe with brown rice, how much more water would you add?
I would add only like maybe a half a cup more. Yeah.
Sounds about right.
See.
And then do you see a big difference between long grain and short grain rice if you were to substitute one for the other in this recipe?
So I love working with the Texas long grain rice. I love working with the basmati rice for flavor, but also because it's a long grain rice. And if I use at the Mexican grocery stores, they have the 1 pound Mahatma bags that I really love at the Mexican markets. And there's another one with the mariachi guy on it. What's his name? No sé cómo se llama. But I always go for the long grain rice for Mexican cooking. So a lot of people like to add the tomato to that, and it seems that it holds up well. The short grain rices, I would maybe add a little less water. And I think because you don't want to touch it, because it'll get really sticky on you. So I would still saute it, and then. But you might end up with something that has a different texture, which is fine.
And just for Aaron, who asked about the Seville oranges, a couple of people have mentioned that Berkeley Bowl and Monterey Market both have them right now. So once we're done today, get out to the store. And then when you added the water, was it cold or warm?
Cold, but sometimes I'll have it from the tea kettle and it'll be warm, and that's fine. Mm-hmm. It's just, I usually just go straight from the tap.
Yeah. And then somebody asked, can they cook the rice in a cast iron pan?
That's interesting. Yeah, of course, but I don't. Cast iron pans, I'm not sure, because they're seasoned to stay kind of like a high heat and a dry heat, or it'll be fine. But I think, and then the way their wash is different. So I mean, it might absorb all that seasoning and then leave your cast iron kind of naked and at risk of getting rusty again. So be careful that you can use it. I usually use a Le Cousette, so it's a cast iron that has a glazed interior and a glazed lid, or just like a pizza pan on top of that. But it should be fine.
Yeah. And what kind of salt do you prefer, regular or kosher?
I like using kosher salt. It's really lovely, definitely. And you have to taste the water. That's the whole thing. It's like, let the water come to a boil before you cover it. Taste it with a spoon. Taste it, because that water and the salt, it changes after 5 minutes of cooking. All of a sudden you realize, like, oh, I didn't add enough salt. It's hard to add that seasoning back to rice that's already been cooked unless you stir fry it. But you can also just sprinkle a little bit and like hope for the best, but it's no big deal. But for me, it's like tasting the water once it comes to a boil, stirring it around, and then you want the water to be a little saltier than you want the rice to be. If it's a little saltier than what you're comfortable with, then that means you have the right amount. Let it cook, and then that rice will be perfectly seasoned. But it has to be a little bit kind of like saltier than usual. But then once it absorbs into the rice, it goes back to like where you want it.
I'm just gonna make an announcement. We're gonna transition to our second video with Dominica making beans. You can continue to answer some questions while I get this set up, but just be aware a video might start, okay?
So one question that I was really curious about, what's a Mexican cookbook that you would recommend for people?
Oh my God. There's so many cookbooks, Jesus. All of them. I love all of them. So I love all of the, like, what comes to mind? Like, I mean, I usually look at the cookbooks as an inspiration, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, and I look within my family for recipes. And then I'm trying to think of, but I'm really stubborn. Even if I have a recipe in front of me, I'm always like changing it a little bit. So I'm just so, I'm very naughty about that. But you know what? Actually, I would recommend Rick Bayless. He has really good math in his cookbooks from the 80s. I don't know about the newer ones. I haven't tried them out. But his first few books that he's done and back in the 80s and 90s, the math is really good. And that's really hard to find, is especially with Mexican recipes, it's finding really, really solid math. And he's done a lot of research. And so I really respect his recipes, and they're worth recommending and trying, because it'll actually come out the way he describes it. So I appreciate that about him and his crew. Rick Bayless.
I used to live in Chicago, and I ate at some of his restaurants a few times. Yeah, he definitely knows how to cook. That's some good recipes there.
Really difficult to get the math right, and he's done it, and especially the first few books.
Yeah. All right. It looks like our video is starting. So we'll be back after the video to talk about beans.
Okay. Hola, soy Dominica. Panfila. Thank you, Berkeley Public Library, for bringing us here today. We're so honored and we're so happy to be here. It's so much fun working with Charlie Cart Kitchen in Berkeley Public Library. Right now we're going to talk about our favorite things: frijoles, beans. So we buy these beans at the Berkeley Farmers Market, and we support the Berkeley Ecology Center every year by shopping with them and placing really big orders with the farmers, and also donating cash. So we donate to them every year because they match food stamps for the community and help support the community and students and parents, and that way is huge. So we've purchased these beans, we've sorted through them, making sure that there's not too many of the broken frijoles and there isn't any dirt in there. So I usually put that on the kitchen table. And then I go straight into cooking because I know these are fresh harvest. So if you go to the Mexican grocery stores, go to the bulk section of the Mexican grocery stores, not the fancy grocery stores, the Mexican grocery stores, because this is a community that's using frijoles for at least one meal a day has some kind of frijoles, because it's part of our diet. It's native diet to the Americas. All beans are from the Americas first. Remember this. All frijoles, I don't care if it's cranberry, cannellini, or flageolet, or any of those, they're all started here in the Americas. So this is very important to us. And it also means that that bulk section is gonna be refilled every other day. So new harvest crop is really important to us because it's gonna cook up in 2 hours and they're gonna be lovely. But if you have frijoles and you're not sure, when they were harvested, then just soak them overnight. And you'll see, they plump up beautifully. And then I just throw them straight into the pot, okay? So we're gonna go for it. And we're gonna show you how we season them and cook them at Cosecha. And this, again, is a big request from a lot of my guests. They ask us, like, the number one question is, how did you make the beans? Where did you buy the beans? So we're telling you now, we're sharing this information with you. So we don't soak the beans at Cosecha either. But at home, if I have a bag and I'm not sure how long it's been around, I'll soak them overnight. You can also do a quick soak, which some people do, is you just boil it with water, and then strain it out, and then start from that point. You can get a quick soak. Add that to your pot, add fresh water, and have it on a low simmer, and then I start immediately with salt. So I add always like about a tablespoon of salt to the frijoles, and the water, you want the water to go up about 2 inches above where the bean is. You want to maintain that level of water, not too much, because then the beans will never really cook. They'll just kind of be fighting against the agua for survival. But you want them to be kind of snug with a little bit of water on top, about 2 inches. And then this is the secret ingredient for me for making beans. I always like to add some kind of smoked chili. So if you have chipotle chili powder or whole chipotle pod, go for it. Add it immediately to the pot. Don't add anything with tomato. Don't add anything with vinegar. So if you have chipotle in a can, you can add that, but at the end. Okay, so I also get some really great chilies from the farmer's market. And this is from one of the people in the community he's Italian American, and he roasts and dries and grows and smokes his own dried chili, and they're so good. So just one into the pot and it's perfect. There's also herbs that I like to add. Some people add epazote. They say it helps fight against like gas, but it also, I think it's mostly for flavor. Okay, so just so that you know. I like to add a bay leaf. Some people, if you want to go more Italian, you would go into like maybe a little bit of rosemary. But it's nice, if you don't have any herbs, no problem. But I mean, a little dried oregano would be lovely. In my family, we always start with a little bit of onion into the pot and a little garlic. But sometimes, you know, I forget. I forget to bring onions home from the grocery store. So I just add a little bit of garlic. Or if it's just garlic salt, go for it. But the main thing is that you just want to focus on is the water, the temperature, bring it to a boil. Right now, this is simmering nicely. So that means I'm going to lower it. Okay? And then I'm going to just let it cover it. You can also cover it a little bit, but you want it to try to find that level in your stove where it's just going to be really nice for 2 hours. You can add a little bit of water after the first 30 minutes, and then just let it simmer slowly, undisturbed. Also, this is something you can use a slow cooker. So if you have a slow cooker, that is like amazing to use, because you can start this in the morning and then just come home and the beans are ready. So slow cooker is perfect, no worries. After 2 hours, this should be nice and suave, nice and creamy and soft. The thing here is that it can come up to a boil at the beginning, but at some point you want that rapid boil to go down to a nice simmer. So after 2 hours, you want this to be nice and suave. So suavecitos. Can you grab me a little plate, Pamphila? Gracias. And at that point, you can decide if you want to add more salt. You want it to be nice and super soft. You'll taste it, and you can just also see with the a little bit more here, just to check. Yeah. So you can just check it, and then you just want them to be really nice and soft. Ooh, Dios mío, caliente. And nice and creamy, and you're ready to roll. But, you know, why stop there? This is what my father-in-law would do. He would add, in his braising liquid, he would add a little piece of celery or a little bit of carrot. But again, if you don't have that in the house, no big deal. So he would, my father-in-law would love just frijoles de olla, and he would add a little bit more salt to his frijoles. He would add a little bit of raw onion on top, and then maybe if he really likes the olive oil, he'll add a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. And then that would be it. This is like the best. It's so pretty. Get a little epazote. Now when I have frijoles, I like to make a nice dark chili oil at Cosecha. And this is also lots of garlic, lots of good olive oil, and lots of smoky chilies that have been toasted and pureed up. Yeah. So this is something I'm working on so that I can make sure that you guys can buy this and just take this home. And you could add this to any kind of stir fry and or stew or over the frijoles. This is something that I really like. And I usually add this towards the end and just to kind of give it a little extra something. So here, again, the olive oil actually gives a lot to the frijoles. This is something you can add at the beginning or at the end or both. And it's super nice to get a little chili, a little extra dark chili in there. So the reason why I like to add the smoked chili and not just the jalapeno is because when you're working in Mexico, which I did for a few years, is that almost every other item is cooked over mesquite or wood. And it's done very quietly. It's not like our Texas barbecue US style and our big pizza oven styles. It's very quiet, you know, mesquite smoked. Even the coffees are brewed over fire and charcoal, and you don't see it. It's always towards the chef, and it's really low to the ground, and it's never shown to the audience. In the United States, it's the opposite. You see everything in our kitchens. But so for me, adding that little extra smoked chili when you're boiling it, either if you're adding it at the beginning or at the end, it kind of reminds me of being back in Mexico. Here's a little heat, but it's mostly smoky. Thank you.
All right.
Hola, that was great. I love it. Chris did such a great job. Thank you so much. All the librarians at Berkeley Library are incredible. Gracias for editing, producing, filming, directing. Gracias.
You're awesome, Dominica.
Yeah. Heather and I were very lucky that we were there that day and got to eat the beans and rice. It was delicious.
Yeah. Lucky us.
All right. Do you want to answer a few questions?
Yeah, why don't I, should we pick up with the Q&A? Dan, did you ask this one? What's your favorite Mercado in the East Bay?
No.
Okay.
All of those are fresh up there.
Okay, great. So Deborah asks, what's your favorite Mercado in the East Bay?
Oh my God. Supermercados, I love them all. I mean, the one on San Pablo, like the Mi Rancho, Mi Tierra, Casa Lucas, and the Mission. I mean, there's so many mercados. I just, I kind of like try to support the ones that are in my neighborhood, closest to my house. And then the one on Fruitvale, Mi Tierra, I go to all the time. And I love them. And the produce are great. They have a great bulk section. And they also have pre-packed bulk that's already weighed out that I love. And it's just, it just makes it easy for you to cook Mexican all the time. That's their job, is to create those. Gracias, Cynthia. So yeah, I love them all. They're really good. And everybody has to go visit the mercados. I mean, it's really shocking that if you're born and raised in California, I mean, that's like where you go get your pan dulce every week. I mean, this is something that should be a part of your family's like weekly shopping, and there should be once a week at a Mexican market, or Central American market, because this is what makes us live in California, the diversity, especially in the Bay Area. And then we have it here at our fingertips, and we need to support that. And there's a ton of the next generation farmers at the farmers market who are from Mexico, who raise everything organic, Mexican, to the criteria that we were accustomed to. So we want like a pinto bean, but we want it organic and fresh. So we have it. So we have a lot of really great farmers to support who are, half of the people who own it are from Mexico, and they're bringing in varieties of beans like Dirty Girl. Some of their farmers are from Oaxaca, and they brought in a really great red Rana Roja. And then Oye Farms in the Berkeley market, they bring in all these really great herbs like the epazote and a lot of pepiche, herbs that you don't find a lot of the supermarkets, pepiche, and it's so, you know, talk to them like, oh, if I cook beans, what should I add? What do you have that's special? You know, there are really great people to work with and support in our California Mexican community. We're very blessed.
There's another question. How can we tell which beans are fresh if we can't go to a Mercado?
Yeah, I mean, people ask questions like, why would I add salt in the beginning? That was one of the chat questions. And like the beans never cook when I add the salt at the beginning. And it's not the salt's problem. It's not the salt, it's the bean, the quality of the frijoles. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, don't blame the salt and don't blame yourself. It's just, we have to change how we shop for frijoles. If they're not coming out right, that's enough. You can't go back and keep trying from the same supermarket to make that bean recipe work. It's just, you know, that's not what they're known for. Every supermarket can't do everything for you. You know, we have to stop thinking that every supermarket can do have everything for you. So each market kind of has a specialty, and we're really lucky to be so close to these Mexican markets. And you can even ask the butcher or the cashier if they have a favorite brand of beans or what's the most popular. You can see it. And that's why I go for the bulk frijoles in the Mexican grocery store. I go for the fresh beans. Here we have Rancho Gordo we can order from. We have all the Avalos Farms in Berkeley Farmers Market. So Rancho Gordo has a great online shopping, and they really do, I think, do that extra step as far as like marking the harvest date on that. So the only other place I've seen that's really strict on the harvest of beans is New Mexico, like Albuquerque, Santa Fe. It's like the cheapest crop of pinto bean that we can find is from there. But the people who shop for pinto beans in Santa Fe and Albuquerque and Los Cruces, they're so snobby. They want to see the burlap bag. They want to see what part of Albuquerque in the south, you know, they want to know what farm. They're very strict. And even though it's like 50 cents a pound, they're just everybody's super bougie when it comes to frijoles and chilies over there. It's serious. And I didn't realize it. I'm like, I thought people would only get that crazy with ingredients if it's like truffles or like wine and champagnes, you know, they want the region. But in the Southwest, and especially in New Mexico, they go crazy. They want to see the bag. They want to know it's this year's crop from October. They're really strict. So this is like our nice October crop from 2020. So we're really excited about this from Avalos Farm. We got some good stuff.
We have a few questions about cooking beans in the pressure cooker or Instant Pot. Do you have any advice on that, Dominica?
Well, I don't know anything about the Instant Pots. Pressure cookers are great, but again, it's trying to start with the best quality frijoles first. So I know like Justos, that bulk section, they have a really good bulk section in Berkeley. They have a good garbanzo beans. I think those do great in pressure cookers. The only thing is like sometimes it can fall apart a little bit, you know, so I wouldn't add anything like a lentil to that. I would just, garbanzos are a little bigger and they can handle it. But some of the other beans might just break apart a bit quicker, but it's no big deal. I mean, who cares? So I say go for it, use it.
Yeah, and we'll be checking out Instant Pots at the Tool Library on Monday too. So if you want to experiment without putting down the money for one. stop at the tool library.
Yeah.
Someone asks in the chat, what's your favorite olive oil for beans?
Oh my God. So I use a ton of the Seca Hills olive oil. So it's near that whole Catch Creek community in Yolo County. And that's been what we've been using a lot here. So Seca Hills olive oil. But there's a really great olive oil section all over, Star Grocery, Berkeley Bowl. They have great olive oil sections. So I also use sometimes at home is the Partana organic olive oil. It's an Italian olive oil. So I don't always use California olive oil, but I know that the farmers market, the Berkeley Farmers Market, has Kaki Farms has a good olive oil. They sell the eggs. They sell right now asparagus, citrus, and olive oil, and that's really good and a great price too.
Grace from the Mission asks, when are you going to create your own cookbook?
Oh my God. Well, we're thinking about doing one. I mean, does the world need another cookbook? I don't know, right? Yeah. There's so many cookbooks. But for us, we were thinking about it in the terms of we have a really fun community here in downtown Oakland around brunch. We have a great lunch crowd, great dinner crowd, but we have a good brunch crowd. Like brunch is very special to us at Cosecha, and it's really fun every Saturday. Right now, Saturday is wild. You were here earlier. Everybody in the neighborhood's here. It's so nice on Saturdays. So everybody brings their kids. And so we're thinking if we do a cookbook, it'll probably be a Cosecha brunch cookbook, and we'll make sure that we have beans and rice in that as well.
Oh, awesome. Great. I think we can take one more question, and then sadly, we're going to have to end this amazing meeting with Dominica and all of you out there. Dan, you want to choose the last question?
Yeah. What can you tell us about the menu at Bombera? Heather wants to know if the shrimp tacos will be on the menu. That's my girlfriend's favorite thing from Cosecha as well.
I mean, I don't know about the shrimp tacos yet. It might have to stay on there for, by popular demand. We are adding some really nice specials. Like we want to be able to do our braised lamb and then cook that in the wood oven the night before and have that for Saturday, Sunday brunch. And then we want to also have start adding more things like the ceviches and crab tostadas that we like to do here, but our kitchen is so small and it gets a little bit too warm, so it's not really fit for like a ceviche station. But we definitely have incorporated a ceviche station over there. So I'm really interested in getting more also whole seafood from the wood oven and get that smokiness layer it gently into the food, So we're very excited about it. Thank you for asking.
Bombera will be opening in late April.
Yes, we'll have the garden hopefully by late April. Primero Dios, we'll have the back garden with our cosecha salads and hopefully some shrimp tacos and some of the cosecha favorites available at the Bombera garden in the backyard.
Great.
Thank you so much, Dominica.
Yes.
Thank you, Dominica, Tanya, and Panfila, and everybody at Cosecha. Thank you so much. Is Tanya and Panfila going to come over and say hi? Hi, Tanya. Thank you so much. Hi, Panfila.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Berkeley. Thank you, Oakland.
Thanks, everybody, for coming to today's event. We'll try to make this available soon online, and I will try to get everyone the recipe emailed. So thank you again, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good weekend.